believer and challenge to the unbeliever. But the question is it right? Is it true? Now let me give you the history of this position. It began around 1830. There is not a trace of this approach to the Word of God before 1830. And there are three strands that came together. It was an Englishman, an Irishman, and a Scotsman. Don't read anything into that, but it just happened to be. The Irishman was a Church of Ireland curate called John Nelson Darby, J.N. Darby, the founder of the Brethren movement. The Englishman was Dr. Henry Drummond, who lived just outside Guildford in Surrey, in a large mansion called Albury Court. And the Scot was a Church of Scotland minister called Edward Irving, and a lady prophetess called Margaret MacDonald, who lived in Port Glasgow. And it all began when Margaret MacDonald gave a prophecy to the effect that Christians would not have to go through the big trouble. That was accepted by Edward Irving, minister. It was discussed in a conference in Dr. Henry Drummond's house in Guildford, to which came J. Nelson Darby. And somehow that idea found its way into Darby's thinking and became a fundamental part of Brethren teaching. Though I hasten to add that many of the Brethren did not go along with it in the early days. Some of the finest Brethren never accepted it. I suppose the finest brother who didn't accept it was a man called George Muller of Bristol. I'm sure you've heard of Muller's orphanage. George Muller was a lovely, lovely brother, but he said to Darby, "You're wrong on this. I can't accept this." But I'm afraid Darby was the stronger personality in the Brethren movement. And there were others like Benjamin Newton and a man called Tregelles who opposed Darby and said he was wrong. But in the end, Darby won. And most Brethren today would be dispensational. Now, Darby went across to America and persuaded a lawyer called Dr. C.I. Schofield to adopt this position. And Schofield decided to produce a Bible with notes in it, interpreting the Bible this way, called the Schofield Bible. How many of you have heard of that? Well, now that is what did the damage. Never buy a Bible with human notes in it. Never. Because when you're reading the Bible and you see a human interpretation on the same page, if you're not careful, you'll think you're reading the Word of God when you're just reading one man's views. Do you follow me? And the Schofield Bible was the best-selling Bible in the States, sold by the million. And people read Schofield's interpretation like this. And they assumed that the Bible said history is divided into 7 periods. The Jews' future is divided from the Christian future, and there are 2 second comings. Now you can find all that in the Schofield Bible, but I can't find any of that in this Bible, because this Bible has no human notes in it. See? I urge you never to buy a Bible with human notes in it. Buy human notes by all means. Buy them as commentaries, but never get a Bible with one man's views in it. It's the most dangerous thing you can do. Because how are you going to do when you're reading a page, you read the Word of God, then you go on reading down below, and your mind must stop and say, that is not the infallible Word of God. It's just one man's view. But you cannot mentally do that on every page you read. and you tend to read the whole lot. And so many people thought they found all this in the Bible, but they found it in the Scofield Bible. This led to whole Bible colleges which only taught this view of the Bible, of which the most famous is Dallas Theological Seminary. And you can't be a student there if you don't accept all this. And it was from Dallas that there came a student called Hal Lindsey. Well, that's the history of it. An Englishman, a Scotsman, and an Irishman, right here, crossing the Atlantic, giving it to Scofield, who puts it into the Bible, and Dallas produces Hal Lindsey. And that's how we have it. The majority of evangelicals in America hold this view of the Bible. Not the majority over here, but it's still very influential because we get books. And the Scofield Bible is sold here. I was speaking at